We are back. Welcome to another episode of Talking Trees. I'm sorry it's been so long since the last podcast. It's probably been well over a year now. I don't actually remember when the last one was, but I think it's definitely over a year. And I'm already planning on doing another podcast. One's in the works, and then I'll go a little more in depth about why I haven't done one for so long. But anyway, today I'm joined by my good friend and excellent arborist, Aiden Pine. Hello,
Hey,
Aiden.
Hey, Dan. Thanks.
So before we get into today's topics and today's conversation, I just want to give a big shout out to two really good friends of mine, Ellie and Leo. Now these are not arborists, and it might sound a bit funny why I'm giving them a shout out on my arborist podcast, but Leo is such a character that he is an avid listener of the Talking Trees podcast, even though he has nothing to do with arboriculture, but he religiously listens whenever I release one. And him and Ellie, his wife, are just about to give birth to a little baby. I'm not sure they don't know if it's a baby boy or girl, so it's going to be a surprise. So congratulations to you two. They're I think Ellie is full term now, which means she can be ready to pop at any point. Exciting times. Anyway, so let's get on with talking about some trees, Aiden. So Aiden, I'll just give you do you want to give a bit of a background on yourself and your career and where you've been and where you've got to and how you became an arborist and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, sure. I'd love to. Actually, went to school for something quite different. I went to school for environmental sciences. I thought I'd be maybe into ecological restoration or something anyways, outdoors related for sure. And I came out here to BC from the Toronto area in 2006 and was looking for work, and one of the big companies, Davey Tree, was looking for workers, and ended up working for them, and that was really the start of my tree career, and I fell into it accidentally, and from there, just through hard work and training and different training, I guess, like courses and schooling through Davey, I worked with them until 2011, and then at that point got a municipal job with the city of Coquitlam here in BC. And they're fantastic with your training as well. So just staying a constant student, and I now have a few certifications under my belt and 12 years of tree climbing and tree work. And so that's basically my arboriculture side of things. Half private and half now municipal. And I'm working with people like yourself occasionally on my own as well. So just really in love with trees for the last 12 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you went from it's strange. We kind of didn't quite cross paths when I first arrived in Canada. You used to work for Davey Tree in the Vancouver office, and then
That's right.
About a month or 2 months after you left, I started there when I first arrived in Canada.
Yeah.
Knowing nothing about the company, and so we kind of just missed paths and missed working with each other, and then I just came to meet you at some of the local PNW courses. We did like a fungi course together.
Yeah, that's right. We got talking there. I certainly knew of you through your website and etc. But the fungal pathogen PNW course, we were chatting. I think it's the first time we started chatting.
Yeah. So because you've worked in the private sector and now you're working for the municipality, kind of run us through a little bit of the differences you experience kind of working for private companies and then working for the city, and I don't know, the feel of doing that both, and maybe the work ethic, the morale, the pros and cons to both, and
For sure. Yeah, well, that is a big topic. And firstly, I'm sad to have missed you at Davy Tree. That would have been a good combo there. I enjoyed my time with Davy Tree for sure and learned a lot. But I think it's pretty obvious that the private side is really production based. Safety will be foremost and production second, and a lot of pressure to get work done, not only as maybe for the arborists on the tools, but salesmen in the private side are a lot of stress involved in selling work and keeping your crews busy with good work. So those are real pressures, and the work, as I recall, and I mean I've been 7 years now in the public sector, and I would imagine everybody says, well, that's a lot easier on your body and a lot easier work, and I would agree with that. It is, because you're not doing the daily big removals and the real daily grind. We'll work really hard, for our municipality, but I think it's the consistency of big work and big production work that really can take a toll on your body. But yeah, the people I work with at the city are strong, fit people that certainly could go back and do that. And occasionally we have weeks and weeks like that, but I think there's more of a balance. So, a bit of a get or done idea in the public private sector, and I wouldn't say it led to shortcuts, but it led to get things done, and it stifles an arborist because you only have 8 hours to sort of get your job done. And if you wanted to try something today and try set up that new speed line, or hey, why don't we set up this mechanical advantage, sometimes you don't go for those ideas because you just need to get the work done. And so it could lead to a closed-minded idea of just production-based. Let's stick with our basics, which is safe and good. But I really like having the time with the municipality to try new things, to take the training and set up systems that might take a little bit. And they often, I think, lead to savings in the end, right? With time, an hour in the front, sort of a planning, might save you 2 hours of work down the road. And so that's all the mindset that kind of gets lost, I think, in at least my experience years ago. Yeah. And then in the public sector, I always just say to people, it's life-work balance. We do our 8-point-something hours a day. You get your lunch breaks. We still don't come out of a tree at 12 because it's 12. We'll work until it's an efficient time to take a break, but we're going to take our breaks, and we go home every day at quitting time. There's the long days, you'll be rewarded for them. And so I think the life balance and in municipal is the first thing that comes to mind, and fantastic training opportunities, because municipalities have larger budgets and can afford to let you go for 2 days to a P&W course, where you might not get that opportunity if you're working for the private companies because they need you producing, right? So I think those are some of the biggest differences that I think of right away.
Yeah, I mean, obviously when you talk about the private companies, they're there's a wide range of them, because some of them are really good and really focused on training, safety, learning, all that kind of thing. But at the same time, they still have to make money. But then, you kind of look at other companies, and at the other end of the scale, there's tree companies that wouldn't even dream of putting their employees through training courses because it's a day lost of profit and production and stuff. And obviously they're the companies that you don't really want to be working for, because you want a company that values you and wants to put time and effort into you, and
it's an investment, right?
And wants to invest, and exactly.
And I think there's some worry sometimes when companies feel like they're investing in an employee and they may lose them down the road. You have to remember you're investing in the industry too, right? This person might not work for you forever, but it's going to make for safer industry, good arboriculture practices. So there's so many benefits. But it's hard for the owner operator to maybe make that call. I think that's probably the tricky part.
And so the city that you work for, do you ever contract any outside like companies in to do larger scale work that the city require, that maybe they would rather farm out to other people, or do you do everything in house?
Well, we have the ability to. Our municipality is small enough and intimate enough that we work really in good coordination with the department. It's all under urban forestry, but there's an area that's doing risk assessment and maybe would be we have a contractor and could send work out to our contractor, but also work so closely with them that they might say, Aiden, would you and your crew be able to handle this takedown? Or is this operation too large for you? What's your work plan like right now? But we do have 2 contractors under contract. And they're guaranteed no work, but if it's a large hazard work, or we also don't have any certified utility arborists in-house, so engineering might need a tree that's coming close to utility lines worked on, so then our contractors would come in and do that too. So we do use contractors, but we have the ability to sort of have a quick look at it and decide, is that something we want to put an in-house touch on? And I say that because we really get to take the more time, the care, the disposal of debris, the amount of fuel loading, the everything about the job can be managed if we do it in-house. But at times you really need your professionals to get in and maybe like a larger clearing operation, or like I said, a certificate felling ticket that we don't have. There's some large trees in our trail system. We get our contractors to tip them, that there. So yeah, we work with our skill sets and their skill sets.
Yeah. Nice. And lost my train of thought for a second there.
Yeah, I was saying about that. We have the 2 contracts, which is nice too, because there's a lot of people that can do good work, but it's nice having 2 companies that we can say, we know their skills, and then we know this other company's skills and weaknesses. And maybe they're not weaknesses, but people really do have a craft at one thing or another. So we use our 2 contractors, and our in-house is basically the 3 teams, and we can really pick our work and pick and choose who's doing what.
Yeah. So how many guys work in the arboricultural kind of section of the city?
For my cities, only 3 full-time on the tools.
Yeah.
I'm the supervisor of that group, and so I could be on the tools, but I'm not full-time. There's a lot of other things going on. And then we hire 1 person seasonally right now, so that makes up our 4 ARB staff. The other urban forestry staff are with like natural area management and some trail management, but really the arborists of our 4 of us, and then myself, so 5.
Yeah.
That's it. 2 trucks. We're quite a small city. We're not large like the other municipalities where you might even have east and west of the city and multiple crews. We have no lift trucks. We have 2 well outfitted trucks and just fully competent climbers. That's what our focus is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is it like the size of your crew? Obviously that is pretty small. Is that purely because of the actual size of the city itself? Because if you take like Vancouver, which is where I live, and one of the kind of cities around, like you're one of the, you wouldn't, I don't know if you would call it a suburb because it's a city of its own, but it's kind of,
we're definitely captured into the Metro Vancouver area.
Yeah.
And we're part of that, right? And Coquitlam in size is, I think, 3rd largest, because it's quite geographically large, but it goes up into crown land and basically forested mountainous territory. So population, I think, is just around 130, 140,000.
Yeah.
So the size of the city is large for only having 4 full-time arborist staff. I think it speaks more to the maturity of our urban forestry department. I think my manager and the arborists before me focused on risk assessment, and we had everything contracted out. The street tree inventory was young and didn't need a lot of management by climbers, for example. So now we're just getting our street tree inventories maturing and up to 10,000 trees through development, etc. And now we actually are climbing 15 and 20-year-old trees. But before that, it wasn't even needed, I'd say. So it's a young city.
So you because if you look at the city of Vancouver, they have a huge tree crew.
Yeah.
They have, I don't know how many trucks going out. They probably employ well over 50 members of staff or something.
I think so, especially in the summer with your temperatures.
Yeah. But then you drive around the city of Vancouver and every street is lined with pretty much mature trees.
Yeah.
So obviously they're planting some younger ones as trees have to be taken down or come down in a storm or something, but most trees are lined with mature trees, whereas if you're saying that in Coquitlam it's all pretty young street trees, then that makes sense, right?
Yeah, I think that is a huge difference. And we are there's also a big difference. Vancouver's reactive, right? They have so many trees and staff constraints that they need to be told basically, excuse me, my tree's dangerous, or could you look at my tree, and then they'll make work order to go do that. Our trees are on a proactive cycle, so I'm touching my trees every 3 years. So we're small enough that we can manage things, and everything's GIS and GPS. So we didn't grow too big and have to make these big corrections. So it's kind of a nice place to be at work, and we want to grow. We are growing as far as parks departments. Like, we're well supported by our council and mayor, etc. And management gets it really well, which is so helpful. So I think it's a good place to be, small, intimate, in charge of a lot of what you need to be. And I just say the things haven't gotten out of hand in Coquitlam yet. That's it's nice, but it is an old city. It's old French town. So there's 100-year-old stuff there. But yeah, that separated boulevard look with big, stately, mature trees like we have in Vancouver here. That's what's missing, and so that's going to be my legacy, is the trees I'm planting and seeing planted through development. Come back as an old man in 50 years, and they'll be untopped and beautiful.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, that's the one thing around Vancouver, is because of the age of the trees. There was a time back in like the 60s, 70s, 80s where topping was just the norm, especially because around Vancouver the native trees are all like single stem, coniferous trees, and they just get topped enough because people don't want them to get any bigger, and so that became an acceptable way of pruning. Whereas go to somewhere like Europe, I'm from England, and the word topping, if you ever saw that on anybody's advertisements for their tree company, you would know that is a terrible tree company, because any self-respecting arborist would never use the term topping. Whereas over here, that term is thrown around so often. And I mean, now, people are becoming more educated, and even the general public, some of them anyway, realize that topping is not a good form of tree management. Well, I mean, there's arguments to that because of pollarding in cities like Paris and London, where they do it on a routine maintenance.
It's got
it's got its merits, and in certain locations it works, especially if it's on a maintenance schedule. But here, driving around, I mean, the amount of top trees you see some really mature cedar trees that are like, 80, 90 years old, that were topped at about 15-20 feet, and now they have these like 70-foot stems that kind of come out in like a candelabra kind of shape, and then they're these vertical stems, and there's maybe like 14 of them, and you just like, oh my god, that is absolutely crazy. That the risk factor there for them just peeling out in a big storm or something, it's crazy. But
it is impressive to see what the fir and cedar can do after a topping event, and some of the fir are fir trees on top of fir trees, right? They are enormous, and so you learn a lot about mechanics of trees by dismantling them and seeing what does fail and what it takes to make them fail. But those scoom arms or candelabras, they don't have rotational strength, right? They have a lot of strength like a bicep, but they don't handle wind forces torsionally, so they fail. And I like you said, 15 to 20, 30 feet at the topping height. I think I agree with you. It was before the bucket truck for sure, because I lived on a street for a few years, and it was nice big old birch and London plane, and just all had the same event happened, and an event went through.
Same level.
And it's an event that changes that tree forever. Really, it is. But it was acceptable. It wasn't. I don't know if it was acceptable internationally, but here it really was the commonplace. And so, I feel like we've stopped doing that only 20 years ago. Conifer topping and height reductions, hard height reductions of deciduous trees. It just changes their form forever, and it changes it for a climbing arborist, right? I mean, our ability to access the upper canopy after that kind of hard crown reduction. It's sketchy and unpredictable, and so
that's actually a really good point, because you get up into these trees that have been topped, and like, obviously the only way we can decide if it's safe or not for ourselves is through experience. But I mean, but at the same time, you don't want the bad experience of something failing on you.
No.
To then decide. And every tree is so different. The way that they've continued to grow after a topping, and is that union, how weak is that union, and how high should I climb up above the topping point before I become too much of a weight and a lever.
Yeah.
That it's gonna put too much strain on the topping point.
And how well hidden is that defect?
Yeah.
Remember that hemlock we did?
Yeah.
Those candelabra unions had grown together and coalesced above the topping cut, and basically coalesced over top of it, like it would occlude properly, but it was the three unions coming together. And luckily there was, donut that I could see that there was no sound wood in there. So yeah, they're hidden defects. You have to know your tree profiles now.
You definitely have to know your tree profile, because on like something like a maple, where you get like a big defect, but then if there's obvious reaction wood, that reaction wood is pretty good, strong wood. And it's a hard call to make about what becomes safe to climb.
Yeah.
And obviously you got to take in, your own capabilities and your own confidence. But at the same time, within this industry, there's so much ego involved, and then it becomes like, oh, should I do it just because people are going to think less of me if I come down and say, oh no, it's too dangerous, and then is somebody else then going to go up and complete the job and say, no, that's fine, like you're just too scared to do it. And it's that to me is it's quite a challenge. And definitely if you're the type of person and have that personality that kind of succumbs to the pressure, like if you're only a few years into your career, and there's guys that are training you, or they have 6-7 more years experience on you, and if they're like kind of teasing you or bugging you about climbing, about going up, and you don't feel comfortable but you feel pressured, like a lot of people wouldn't like fight them or wouldn't like argue with them. They would be like, they'd feel the pressure and feel like they have to do it, and they're not proving themselves as having the guts to go up there and do that. So
that's a big topic. I mean, like I lots of thoughts on that. From it is a bit of a macho industry, but we have such up and coming. The women in the industry are amazing and sort of taking the macho-ness away, and the big burly tree men of years ago I'm little and not big, and a lot of the people I climb with are slight and fast, and so I feel like the macho-ness is maybe leaving, and it's from the old logging industry. But I think we put pressures on ourselves, because you think people might think less of you, and oh man, I got to do this tree. This isn't, the guys are down there or whatever. But I hope that the pressures from your experienced trainers and your peers in the industry is only from a real professional, we know you can do this standpoint. I hope, because I was pressured to do some first trees, but they were safe trees. It was more about getting over my own fears, right? Just get used to your spurs, get used to leaning trees. And I think I needed that jeering and encouragement. Yeah. But I think it's the pressures we put on ourselves now. At 12 years and there's a tree that might be a little dangerous, I'll take it upon myself to do it, because I it's not a badge of honor for me, but I'm sure not going to point to you and say, you do it. Yeah. I want to say, if this tree's safe, then I'll do it. And if this tree's potentially unsafe, I'll find out. Not you. But then again, I work with people like you, really smart people, that I can bounce ideas off of. And I can say, well, we should have a second time point in this tree far away, or what about a floating hub here, or do we even need to access this tree? Maybe this is something else. So like, those are how we stay safe now, right? Thinking, be as smart as we are competent.
And I suppose that's another thing about working for the municipality, is that you can go into every job and do it as, do it. I was going to say by the book, but that doesn't really make sense, because every tree is different. So there's there's obviously a by the book, as in like safe work practices and stuff, but every tree you have to call upon your knowledge and decide what's going to be the safest and most efficient way to do it.
Totally.
And working for the city, you're enabled to do that. You don't feel pressure of time, like somebody watching over you, or the boss calling you up like midway through the day and saying, have you got that tree down yet? Whereas in the private sector, you turn up and you might think, oh, this would be a great idea for putting a floating hub up there in between two trees, so I can descend down on the top of like a dead tree that's, you know, spongy or whatever. But if you worked for a private company, you might get there and you might think that of those ideas, but know that that's going to take maybe an hour and a half to set up, and then that's an hour and a half of not doing any kind of production, and think,
like not production.
Well, maybe if I just get up there and start working, it should be okay. It should hold my weight. You know, it's still standing. It can take a bit of wind, so my weight is not going to make too much difference. And with that kind of attitude, you might get the tree down in a quicker time, and you probably would do because you're doing the exact same job, but not spending the hour and a half of rigging up a safer system. And in the majority of cases, I'm sure the outcome is great, because you don't hear of trees failing on arborists, like, you know, week after week after week. So that obviously isn't, you know, a huge factor, but if you get one case where a tree fails because they were rushing and they didn't have the time to set up, and the boss was putting pressure on them, so they climbed a dead tree and something happened, like, there shouldn't be one case.
No, not a fatality, not an injury. Like, you know, we no, definitely not. Like, that's it's like cycles to failure with ropes, right? You can get away with a bunch of times, but at one time's going to bust. And if it busts and now you've got a glass house under you, it's done. Or if it's the line that your life, or the tree that you're attached to, that's not a risk I don't think any of us should be willing to take. And pressures from a poorly quoted salesman or an angry boss, that should not be the determining factor to put that cycle to failure. Like, you know, just opening the door to that chance. I think we got to be the stopgate on that. And that's the whole refuse unsafe work thing, and that's a bit much. No one's going to use those terms, because you're going to do the job, but an hour or two longer than maybe it was quoted for, but we're going home to our kids or the boss, you know, whatever. That's the really important part, right? And I think that our job is risky if we're doing things perfectly right. We know people that have lost their lives doing things right, and so if you're willing to take chances, that just opens that door up even further for that risk factor. I don't think that's how you become a good long-term arborist, and that's relied on by family, friends. You might be the boss. There's a lot of people. I think we got to do things the right way every time.
I mean, we touched on it, and we're still speaking on the topic of ego. And I remember, like, obviously it depends on your personality, but I think it's rare that you get somebody coming into the industry. Well, I'm going to talk for the male population of the industry. It's going to be rare that you get somebody to coming in this industry, learning to be, you know, a climbing arborist, and they have no ego whatsoever, and they're not trying to be this, that, and the other. They're not trying to prove themselves, because most of us have a bit of that in us. But I've realized the longer I've worked in this industry, and the more people I've met, and the more people that I've learnt from, you need to push the ego aside, and you know, like, everybody's got an ego, and it has its good points to, like, everybody uses the term ego in like a negative context, and you know, everybody has one, and it's just how you use it and how you come across. But the way I've changed as an arborist from, you know, the first couple of years is night and day. Like, I'm wanting to go out there, wanting to work with as many different arborists as I can, wanting to learn from as many different arborists as I can. Like, as soon as I see somebody using a technique or somebody doing something slightly differently, I want to pick their brains on why they decided to do that particular thing, and how I can learn from that, and how I can use that in my day-to-day experiences. And it's how to encourage guys to shed the kind of macho ego, you can't do it as fast as I can, you're too scared to do this, you can't do that kind of attitude. Like, we need to shut that down, and we need to encourage each other. And like you said before, when you were learning, you were kind of encouraged and to go up trees that you were like scared to do, but they were safe trees. And I'm exactly the same. I'm sure everybody is, because there's a height involved, so there's fear there. There's using chainsaws involved, there's a fear there. There's doing something that you're not comfortable with because you're not experienced enough, there's fear there. So fear is a good thing to have, because fear keeps you on your toes. And like, as we all know, it's the easy jobs where you get complacent, where accidents tend to happen. It's not the big removals using crazy rigging systems and using large saws that accidents happen, because everybody's like hyper aware. It's true.
I would say I would agree with that, actually. And with our industry, it's funny, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the climate competitions, and they're different from our BCTCC here, a little bit of a different format to the ISA events, or more of a totally open Jambo style. If there was going to be egos, those are the people that would have egos. But if you go to those events, those are the people that are going to introduce themselves to you and talk about everything that they're in love with, like you are. And we are intimidated by people just like us.
Yeah.
The people that are eat, sleep, and dream trees and want to be anything and everything with trees. And those are the people I think we're intimidated about, but those are the people that are just like us and just love what we love.
Yeah. And it's funny, because I'm sure I'd have to go back and listen, but every podcast to do, its topic seems to get onto tree climbing competitions at some point or another. And I absolutely love tree climbing competitions, and I'll give you a bit of a background on why, really, because obviously I worked as an arborist in the UK for like 6 or 7 years, and I always wanted to compete in tree climbing competitions. And with my girlfriend at the time, I went with her to a town and country fair, and it was at Wood, which is an arboricultural college, or they run the program there anyway. And it just so happened that there was the tree climbing competition was on. It was a Sunday, so it was like, I think they'd done the Masters and they were doing head-to-head footlock. And I didn't know that the competition was on, but I'd always wanted to compete. And so I watched the head-to-head footlock, and obviously that's a spectacle, because it's a technique that very few arborists can do well. And seeing this whole group of guys racing each other, and I was blown away, and I was like, oh man, I've got to talk to these guys and pick their brains. And I went and spoke to one of them, and I actually got I got a really bad vibe, and I don't know why, but the person that I spoke to, they didn't seem like they wanted to really give me the time of day. I mean, they might have been absolutely exhausted, or there could have been a lot of reasons why, but kind of give me short answers, weren't really willing to go into it a bit. And I was probably like the fanboy, like the geek who was wanting to ask all the questions and that they'd heard a million times before, and so that kind of put me off competitions. But then when I came to Canada, I worked in Australia, then I had a year off working as an arborist, because I was absolutely done with the job. I was sick of it. I think it kind of ground me down, and I wasn't getting much variation, and I'd ran my own company, and there was a lot of stress involved, and all this kind of stuff. Anyway, then I came to Canada, and I started working as an arborist again, and within the first couple of months, I'd heard on the grapevine about the BC competition was coming up, so I was like, oh man, I'm going to enter it, and ever since that first competition, I've been such an advocate for competitions, because I learned so much from that first one. And then the second one was maybe only like 6 weeks after. I learned so much more from that. I met a whole bunch of people, and I actually felt quite intimidated by the group of people, because of their standard of climbing. Was so good, and I was kind of felt intimidated, but it was also in a good way, because I was in awe of watching the way they climbed, of fluidity, techniques that they'd used that I'd never seen before. Because throughout the majority of my career, I'd worked for small companies, only like two small companies, and then I owned my own company. So I hadn't been exposed to a lot of different techniques, because the guys that I worked with were mainly just the groundsmen, and I'd always been like the climber.
You teach them.
I was being kind of trained by the bosses of the companies, who were like kind of climbers that had enough of, being out on the tools, and they wanted to go and do the quotes and stuff. So I was pretty much, for my whole career, my early career, I was like the lead climber, which was ridiculous, because I had next to no experience, but which is why I think progressed so quickly as a climber.
Gain a lot of experience.
I got a lot of experience, because I was just throwing up every single tree without option.
I think a lot of people would relate to that. Like, that can happen to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And it's that kind of like sink or swim idea, right? And I mean,
most of us... that's the best way to learn. But in a lot of companies, you don't get that opportunity, because companies don't want their lead climber to be a 6 month into the job kind of apprentice slash climber, because then they're going to have to be coached through every tree, and the boss is going to have to make sure that everything's being done right, and obviously then production goes down, and obviously profits go down, and all that kind of stuff. So it's not the ideal situation for a company or for a boss, but for a person getting into the industry, it is an ideal situation, because everybody's learning.
I think and that's the difference between the sort of smaller mom and pop operations, what we want to call them, versus you get in with Bartlett, you're probably going to hold the line as learn a lot on the ground prior to being a climber. And when you're a climber, that's going to be spotty. But to be just thrown into, hey, get this all done and you're talking the big companies, that's right, doesn't happen so often. You kind of have to work your way up that ladder structure. Unless they're really hurting for people. It could happen.
So back to like the tree climbing competition. So I started doing the tree climbing competitions here, and now I try and encourage as many people as I possibly can, because you learn, there's differences in what you learn through a competition, because there's no work involved. So it's all focused on technique, and using different configurations for different purposes, getting in certain positions, obviously like in the work climb, getting yourself in the right position and making the right route choices. But I'm such a huge advocate, and I try and push it on everybody. And the thing, we were talking about this the other day, the thing that I find is that a lot of arborists, if they've not done a competition before, they're so reluctant to do it, because they're like, oh yeah, but this is where ego comes in again. It's like they don't want to be seen by their peers not to be as competent climber as what people might think, or they can't do a limb walk as well, or they can't ascend as fast, and that stops people from entering the competitions. And it seems ridiculous, because from that first competition I entered, where I hadn't even read the rules properly, and I didn't, there was some absolute amateur mistakes that I was making and getting like knocked points off. But then through actually doing it, and through talking to the guys in your group that you spend most of the day with, and you're almost guaranteed to be in a group with two or three like exceptional climbers who are willing to like share information and share ideas and give you pointers, and even while you're climbing kind of shout out things that you might forget.
Totally.
And then not only are you learning a huge amount about competition, you're learning about certain techniques that you can then take into the workplace, and you're also meeting a whole bunch of people that are in your industry that you might not have met before. They might work for local companies around town that you've heard of, but you don't kind of hang out with, and then it just makes this great community that in the Pacific Northwest we have an amazing like community of arborists that, a lot of which will either compete, volunteer, or just go for a beer and hang out and chat about trees and equipment, and
totally.
Like geek out about shiny stuff. And
that's our favorite. Our community is amazing in
yeah.
the PNW, and some of the best climbers are volunteers, and it's intimidating, but you grow so much, and it's only we're just ridiculous because we're humans, and we're just all so afraid to be vulnerable and exposed to, but we can't all be the fastest at ascent.
Yeah.
But I guarantee after you do the comp, you're faster than you were, because you'll have seen something or get motivated or say, how can a human be 3 times faster than me? How's that? I just need technique, whatever, right? Yeah. It's empowering, but you have to a little bit of humble yourself and pay the $60 and go and just between the camaraderie, what you learn, what it does for your ego on the good side of an ego, because if you had a little one and you leave with more like, I did better than I thought. I was 5th out of 25 people. That's wow. There's so much to grow at these things, and it is a shame. It's just psychology, I guess, that's just the way we are programmed as humans, to be worried about looking silly, and to be worried about judgment by peers, but these are designed not to be show offy. These are designed to create this community and to learn, and at RBC TCCs, we're talking about how to improve the industry's standards and regulations, and we're talking about bigger picture. We're there racing up ropes and doing work climbs, but there's a bigger picture involved there, they're so important. I didn't get started into these until 2014. I volunteered in 2008 and saw, but I was really intimidated and thought, I'm glad I'm not doing this. Yeah. And I remember the guys in the trees that I was setting up for the work climb saying, I'm scared and I don't know what I'm doing, and then a few years later, that's me. And now a few years later, it's like, man, so silly to wait so long. So silly. Yeah. Because literally, you could be leaps and bounds better. Yeah. And not maybe, and even if you're not physically better, more. You just, it's mind opening, whatever you want to call it, right?
You just soak it all up from seeing other people do things, from knowing what you did wrong, and like I said, the first one I did was 2012, so that's 6 years of competing, and from every single competition, I've just become more relaxed. Like I remember the first one, I had such tunnel vision. It was like I couldn't see anything else around me. It was all blurry. I couldn't hear anybody's voices. It was just like
a movie.
Yeah, it was just like I was in a video game with the blinders on, and I was just like go, and I was like, oh my god, everything's got to be done at double fast speed, which is now for every competition I'm more relaxed. I kind of look around and take note of what's around me, even when I'm climbing in the competition, and it's night and day difference of how relaxed I've become when competing, that I can kind of talk to the techs in the tree while I'm climbing, and talk to the audience while I'm climbing. If somebody shouts something or heckles or anything like that, I'm aware enough that I can.
You were so casual at the last comp. You showed up with new throw line and tied it in a big knot before the event. Remember? That was pretty casual. Too casual.
Yeah, that's one of those things of you should never use new gear at a competition.
Well, And I mean, I'm not sure if you've partaken in the Jambos, which are those more open style comps in the States, and sponsored by large
sorry,
corporations.
You can say them,
yeah. But when we were in Oregon, down in Medford competition, I met a few guys from California and climbers in the Berkeley area, and they were just wouldn't stop talking about how fun those formats are, and that they involve rigging and weight scenarios and just another level of brain and body, just fun.
Yeah.
But and then there was that North American Open Masters recently, the NAOM or whatever, just as like super fun, but just another spin on competing and learning. Yeah. And just it steps your game up, right? Because you want to do well. So I think that's great. We all should step our game up whenever we can, right?
And after I first started competing back in 2012, it made work more enjoyable, because I was like, every job I'd go to I would see it as I'm training for a competition, and if there was a nice ascent to do, I'd try and get a nicer, smoother form. If I was having to limb walk out to the ends of branches, it was all just a game, and it made the job more enjoyable.
Totally.
Like, because I could see it as training for a competition. And that's another thing as well. Like, some people are so afraid, like we were saying, about doing their first competition. I'd say, if you want to compete, it'd be good just to go and try out a few things in a park, like, before the competition, because the worst thing in the world is if you turn up to a competition and you haven't practiced anything. Yeah. And a lot of people say, "Oh yeah, I don't practice for this," but like, it's almost as if like there's people are embarrassed to admit that they practice for a competition, whereas if you're training for doing a 10k run, or you're training for a triathlon, or you sign up for a triathlon, you're going to train for it. You're not just going to walk in there with doing nothing. And I think the tree competitions, it's even more important, because if you're doing an ISA competition, there's 5 different events that you've got to do. So 5 different disciplines that all need a little bit of tweaking and practice, and like equipment set up to make sure you're familiar with what you're going to use. And even if you're not going out there practicing like 2 to 3 hours a night, you should still at least go through what systems you're going to use. And whereas I've seen, I think this is another reason why it puts people off, because I've seen like some people enter and then have an absolute nightmare of a time, like in a work climb, and their ropes are getting coiled up around them. They're missing bells. They're not sure what to do with the pole saw station, or like they haven't practiced how to exit the tree and make the jump for the landing station. They haven't practiced an ascent, so they're not even sure if they can make the 50 feet or however high it's set. And these are all things that just with a couple of run-throughs, you're going to feel so much more comfortable. Yeah. Whereas that's where the real nerves kick in if you haven't done any kind of a practice.
Yeah, it's the unknown. We're all scared of the unknown. Yeah. And do yourself the favor of running through the instructions and how you're being scored, and you understand what you're accountable for and required to do so much better, and it should calm the nerves. And and if you just want to lie to yourself and say, well, I'm not really here to do well, I just here to hang out with Dan, well, then that's fine. But after that comp, I guarantee you go, I could have got 7 points if I just had said this word 4 times. Yeah, if I'd
just done this, or I'd just done that. And then that's like...
Oh, they want 2 hands on the saw? Yeah. I can do that next time, Those are the things that's where the brain starts saying, oh, I did pretty well without even trying. Yeah. If I do try.
Yeah, without even knowing the rules, or without even knowing the point scoring systems. Or...
Yeah, we all can climb trees because that's our jobs. Yeah. But if you want to get real quality scores in the work climb, you need to know what you're being scored on. Yeah. That's just the way it works. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's just being a smart competitor.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, and that might take up... I went in pretty blind in 2014 because I kind of didn't know where to find all the rules. I knew I could climb, but I didn't know all the details. So I was that embarrassed person for myself, and got a really low score and had to say, like, I do so bad, you know, and
Yeah.
yeah, that's school for me. I went to school that day. I should have done my homework, but I didn't. And now I know. And going forward, yeah, if I could do it again, I would. But I just had to be a baby step for me. Baby steps in, and now from there, I've learned.
Yeah, but you learn. You learn each time you do it.
Yeah.
So talking about the BCTCC, you won a Husqvarna battery chainsaw. Which obviously I'm a huge fan of the Husky T536LI or whatever it's called.
A few more consonants there.
Like, so you won one. That's amazing.
It was a competitor entry draw. So all the competitors in the BCTCC, which I think there were 25 spots. I don't think they sold out, but anyways, they were all entered in the draw, and I luckily got my name pulled. It was just one of those moments.
Oh man,
I've only won a few things in my life of like when you really win a ticket or get your name drawn.
Yeah,
and that sticks out as one. And I'm pretty interesting because like the Monday before, I tried yours and I really liked it.
Yeah,
and then on the Thursday, I thought about it and got myself one for the city. I thought we need to go this way for the municipality. And then on Saturday, I won myself one.
That's crazy because we worked the Monday before the competition.
That's right.
And that was the first time you'd used one because I brought mine along and used it to strip some branches off a hemlock. And then I remember you texting me and saying, "Oh, I'm thinking I'm going to get one for the city." And then the next weekend, I wasn't able to make that competition, but you sent me a picture of it, and you're like, "Yeah, I just won this." And
pretty incredible.
Have you had a chance to use it yet?
No, not in production mode, and I want to take it into New Green and give me a one over on it.
Yep.
And so it doesn't even have bar oil in it yet. It's just
just
staring at it. Oh, it's beautiful.
It's still in the box.
They hooked me up with a charger and battery, and I just keep pushing the button and watching the lights glow. And when I got home that evening from the comp, it was like late, after 10 or so, and I'm in my garage and I'm running, so silent.
Yeah.
The kids sleep above me, and I'm running my chainsaw at 11 p.m. So I'm looking forward to production mode, but I want to take it in and do it right.
That saw is just incredible. I think there's, if you go online, you're gonna get responses of all natures, and obviously a lot of people who've tried it have been with me and saying, "Yeah, this is amazing. I'll use it every day. Like, awesome for pruning, this kind of thing." And then there's some people that say, "Yeah, not powerful enough, or I wouldn't give up my gas saw or whatever." But from my point of view, I see it is it's not going to replace like an MS200 or 201 or whatever like that. It's not got the power of that kind of a top handle saw. It's a small, really light battery powered saw, and in this day and age, I'm still so shocked every time I use it that a battery can power a chainsaw to cut through a 10-12 inch log. Like, that just seems crazy. And then but what I use it mostly for is for pruning, obviously, and for pruning, people ask me like all the time, online, via email, whatever, how long does the battery last? And if you think about it, it's a ridiculous question, because every single tree is different. Every job, you depending on the job type you're doing, if you're pruning, if you're just taking out some small bits of dead wood, if you're removing a tree, if the tree is large, small, whatever, you can't say how long does the battery last. But anyway, if you haven't seen my video, I did a video about how long the battery lasts on a specific like cherry tree removal, and it was like 2 cherry trees. One was 3 stem, one was a single stem, and they were probably like the biggest stem was probably like 12-13 inches.
Right.
But I did it, and I pieced down every bit of wood of the stem into like firewood size length. So I was making sure I was using it properly. And I would just see how long it would last. And so I posted the video and showed what I did and how long it lasted. And it's is shocking how long it can last. Even doing a cherry tree removal where you're cutting all the wood into 12, 14-inch lengths. Cherry is like really hard, dense wood to get through, and it showed that how long it would last. And so if you have like two batteries, two batteries is going to be good for a day, even if you're doing like a removal type thing.
Yeah.
Because I was doing the video, I cut all the wood into firewood size lengths. Whereas if I wasn't making the video, I would have taken it in like 4 or 5 foot sections.
And so faster, yeah.
Yeah, so I would have got the tree down way quicker, and then maybe cut it up into firewood size chunks on the floor.
Yeah.
But that was for the purpose of the video. But to be honest, the majority of the work I do with it is, if I'm doing like a large removal, I'll use it to take off all the branches. If I'm doing any kind of pruning where the pruning is kind of just above where you want to be using your handsaw for, I'll take the saw. And any kind of a pruning, the one battery is going to last you all day long.
For sure.
Like no worries about that.
Yeah.
But the biggest pros to that saw are, one, you get hardly any vibration, because there's no engine to make vibrations. So the only vibrations you're getting are from the chain cutting through the wood, and which is hardly anything.
Pretty
like
minimal.
if you side by side hold, say like a MS 150, because it's probably an equivalent size saw, a little more power because it's gas powered, but if you hold those two saws and cut through some wood, you'll notice so much difference in the vibration. It's crazy. And that's a huge consideration for being an arborist, especially if you're planning on doing it long term as a career. Like you've got to recognize the vibrations that you're taking.
And to your ears. I mean, the decibels are lower, so there's two, ergonomic, if you want to call them ergonomic, corrections immediately. And our bodies are just like other things, cycles to failure. So, cumulative damage to your ears, cumulative damage to our nerve system from vibrations, continuous damage from static ropes and not, no give in our lanyards around our hips. And those little changes from my dynamic to your static work positioning lanyard over a career that we could be 20 years in trees, longer if we're that. I think those make a big difference.
Yeah, they make a huge difference.
I think that that saw is awesome. I run a T540, and there's a big difference in vibrations. And I think you just need to know. Well, we have different handsaws. I don't go to a job with one handsaw, and I don't go to a job with one rope, and I don't go to a job with one prusik. You need tools for different things. And that's also jumps to my mind as being the tool for me when I'm working in a riparian area, and the decibels are important for wildlife. There's a nesting window here in BC. There's a nesting window everywhere, but in BC the nesting window is quite long, right? And we're limited to running noisy saws and working around certain raptors big distances, so that can help a lot. Put in some veg bar oil, that more like a environmental bar oil, and your saw, you're just talking a totally different saw in the tree for environmental considerations. Like it's the way to go in the future. I'm not going to get rid of my T540,
No.
And you're going to hopefully bring a medium saw to your jobs too, so there's just saws for different applications.
Exactly.
And it's a great saw.
It is.
If you can win one, I highly recommend it.
I mean, that's the thing. They're a pricey saw because you have to buy the saw, which is probably like the bare bones of saw is probably similar price to a T540. Maybe not quite, but
cheaper.
then you have to buy the battery, which is expensive. Then you have to buy the charger, which is expensive. But if you kind of buy them with kind of future in mind and think, oh, maybe I'll buy a battery powered blower. Because like I'm considering getting a blower because I have like a small low powered blower anyway, because the only thing is that we're blowing is a bit of sawdust here and there to clean up a job site unless you're like milling or something where there's going to be sawdust everywhere.
You need a shovel then.
But we're not like a landscape company where we need big backpack blowers to blow the whole garden. We just need to clean up what we've done. And so I think the battery powered blower would be an awesome tool. Yeah, and because you're going to reduce vibrations again, you're going to reduce noise again.
Yeah. I don't do many hedges anymore. I just don't really like hedges, but I'd think that would be where I'd like to go to. That makes sense that the battery would be able to power the shears.
Yeah.
And between small or your typical combi size shear, like that's the way to go.
Yeah, you can definitely get the shears. The only thing with the shears is like I really want to give those a try, because when you're hedge trimming, you're using pretty much full throttle a lot of the time, or constant throttle, even if it's not full throttle. But so I don't know how long the battery's going to last. And it's not under as much load as using a chainsaw and cutting through wood, but with a chainsaw you're only using it a bit here, a bit there. But if you're trimming a hedge, so I'd be interested to see.
Even better for me, it would limit the size of hedge I can do.
Yeah.
I can only do that little hedge, sorry. No, but they also make they make 3 sizes of that battery, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, that's just like there's no one saw for any job. There's no one battery. So you put in your big 500 or whatever that, I think that battery's called the 500. It's a big one, and it would last 5 hours running time, I believe is what it says.
Really?
Yeah.
So on my battery chainsaw, I use the 200 battery because I tried it with the 200 put in, and then with the 300 put in, and with the 300 it just makes it that bit too heavy, and it makes it really like back end heavy because of where the battery sits. So it didn't feel balanced, whereas with the 200 it feels way nicer, it's lighter. And that's another benefit of the saw. That saw is light.
Yeah.
Even with the 200 battery that I have, it's really nice and light, and that's a huge thing as well. Like it's a big thing from just being on a job, like looking at it like on a daily basis, how tired you get on a daily basis. But then if you think about your career on like over the course of a few years, how that's going to have an effect on your body carrying around a light saw in comparison to like a heavier saw on your harness, and how it's pulling your harness down and your hips down, and kind of putting you a bit out of balance and stuff. It's all these kind of minor things that you don't think about on a daily basis, because it's not having an instant impact on you. They're all considerations that for us to have.
And unfortunately, they come kind of late in our careers, right? When you're starting, you're just like, oh, this is the weight that I'm supposed to carry.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be hard to tend hitches. Like, and then we get better gear, you get more efficient, you become a little smarter, and these are all great things to improve upon. But at the beginning, you almost feel like, maybe the ego and that proving thing again, just be like, no, the heavy and the big stuff is all needed. It's like, nah, weight delete.
Yeah.
That saw is a good weight delete.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I really don't like accessing a tree with a saw on me. Sometimes it's prudent to do so for safety or whatever, but that's a saw that it shores up so tight, like you showed me there, so high up on the hip and then out of your knees in a scent area, and then the weight's bearable. So that's one I can ascend with.
Yeah, it's definitely a saw that you can ascend with. I mean, I am the same as you. I don't take a saw up with me on my initial ascent unless I need to, unless I'm going to start making cuts at 10 feet.
Yeah.
If I'm going to ascend into a tree 50, 60 feet, I'm probably not going to take it with me, just because even though it's a light saw, you can still feel it, and it still kind of slows you down and makes your legs work harder and all that kind of stuff.
Totally, and that's the beginning of the day, right? No, it's so much nicer to set up a mechanical advantage system and have your groundsman pull it up to you.
Yeah, definitely make them do the work.
Yeah, that's what we set the systems up proper.
Yeah, and it's going back to what I was saying, as I've changed my outlook throughout my career. Now everything has become about efficiency for me. I've realised that if I want to carry on doing this for another 10, possibly 20 years, like it'd be so nice if I could say when I'm like mid-50s and I'm still climbing trees and still at like a good level and a good amount of efficiency. If I can still be doing that, that'd be amazing. Just for like personal satisfaction of being able to get out there and still climb, and then because also that means that my body's not completely trashed. So now every time I climb, I'm thinking about what's the most efficient way to do everything. And it's an amazing time to be in this industry with all the new equipment that's come out.
Yeah.
Like the rope wrench has been such a game changer. Like making just going from we could ascend into a tree on a single rope. We could do like a frog walker system before the rope wrench came out, because the ascenders were on the market. They'd been on the market for years, so we could do that kind of thing. World. But we could never, we didn't have a device where we could change, from ascent to descent mode. Just in the just by sitting back in your harness. Whereas with the rope wrench, you can ascend and then start working straight away. There's no change of gear, and it has so many advantages to it. So things like that are amazing for us as arborists now. Whereas I think back to when I started and I was just working on a prusik loop, on a doubled rope system. A lot of the time I wouldn't use a cambium saver or friction saver because maybe the companies that I worked for, nobody else used one, and so
how do you install it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Totally. The gear. I turned into a gearhead many years. Well, actually, I'm probably not too long after being in this industry, just seeing what is out there, but the growth in the decade that I've been an arborist has been incredible. And I've only been an arborist 12 years, so, and I'm a certified arborist less than that, because for my first 3 with Davey I wasn't, etc. So, but I love the gear now, and I've seen people who didn't climb and have told me I climb again because of this gear, and we see those people volunteering at our comps now, and then they are capable, competent climbers into their 50s for sure, maybe older. A couple come to mind immediately. Like some of them are still producing, for their own companies down in Washington at Champion Tree Care, for example. That guy's going to be 70 still working.
And he's still one of the best around.
Totally.
As well.
So we'll learn from him. But yeah, the gear is amazing. I can't stop spending money. That's the problem with me now.
Yeah, you do. Like when I came to your house the other day for when we went out climbing, and you just had. Oh no, it was when we worked on that Hemlock job. I came into the backyard and there was just like a tarp laid out with all your gear on there, and there was bags upon bags upon bags, and I was like, Jesus, this guy has a lot of gear.
And there's still things though that you'd be like, okay, well, grab the other big DMM block, let's double whip this, and I'd be like, I need another one of those. So it never ends, but it's a balance, right?
Yeah, but it is amazing. Like when I first got into the industry, people were saying, "Oh, you'll climb until you're like," so say if you were in your 20s or like late teens and you got into the industry, they would say, "Oh yeah, by the time you're 35, you'll be done climbing. Your shoulders will be knackered, your hips will be knackered, so you'll have to go into doing, like being a sales rep kind of thing for the company, or you'll have to go into consulting." And but now I think about that and I'm like, there's, the first few years was hard on me and hard on my body because of the way that we worked, but now I work in such a way to minimize stress and strain on my body that I could see, if I carry on climbing like this, and as the gear keeps on advancing and keeps on evolving, then I'm going to be able to climb until I'm 60 or until I want to, kind of. Well, I'm touch wood, I'm hoping it's going to be like that. So
well, I watched something that you put online just a few days ago. The techniques you're using in the tree are helping the bodies of your groundsmen and the people you work with as well. When you can get the log into the truck, you're saving everybody's body, right?
Yeah.
So I think the gear that is enabling us to have longer careers, it is hard on the ground. That is the harder job at times. It might not be the macho job or the coolest job, but it is hard. And if you can run a ground crew, hats off to you, because I like to run the ground crew myself. That's hard work. That's efficient work. Organized. You're kicking your own butt, and if you can make it easier for them, then we're talking your top arb. Cool. Get the job done. You can make a big mess. That's not arboriculture to me. That's not teamwork. I've seen that for years. So I think we're getting places. We're all going to be working longer, smarter, safer, and the gear that we're getting. You
Yeah.
just all have to, like investment of time, investment of money, right? You go and buy the right things. Not always the best thing. You had to buy enough things, a couple rigging lines. We got away with one rigging line for a few years. Well, now we need a tagline. Now we're double whipping everything.
Yeah.
And
Now we need longer rigging lines
Yeah.
if we're double whipping it.
And we need mechanical advantage over this ravine that we've worked in, you know.
Yeah.
We need 300-foot ropes. So it never stops, and that's good to keep evolving.
Yeah.
The tool bag, just like the tool bag up here,
Mental
needs to keep
tool bag,
keep evolving.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's good that actually that you reminded me by mentioning the job that I did the other day where we rigged out some large pieces of a dead hemlock, and we did it on a controlled slide line. So we had the rigging line set up in a neighboring tree, and then we tied the slide line onto the neighboring tree as well, and we had a large bin for disposal of debris. So the idea is we could just rig it straight into the back.
Brilliant.
And the job went really smooth. We got it done in an amazing time. I don't even think anybody broke a sweat on the job, which is exactly what we were going for. It was awesome. We saved on cleanup because there wasn't as much sawdust because we were taking bigger pieces.
Yeah.
All that kind of thing. The only thing that that I actually think I did wrong on that job, and I want to make a video about this because I filmed the whole job and I'm in the process of editing it together, is that the way that I tied on the log and then fastened it to the speed line, it still kind of niggles at me a little bit, and so I'll explain what I did. So I didn't have a spare short bit of line to use as another rope to attach to the speed line. So I basically tied the piece on using a half hitch, then using a running bowline with a Yosemite tie off. That was on the rigging line, so that was attached to the rigging block and the lowering device. But then to attach it to the slide line, because I only had the one rope that I could use for it, I left the tail long enough and clipped the tail to the tandem pulley, so it's all using the same line. But because and at the time I was thinking, it's got a half hitch on it, so it's, that's going to prevent things from sliding too much. It's got a running bowline on it, which is a great knot to use for that situation. And then I did a Yosemite tie off, so it just prevents any slippage that you might get from just a standard bowline. And then because the Yosemite tie off, it goes back through the bowline, and I thought, well, if that's under tension by using that tail, it's gonna be tightening the knot even more. But because it's a running bowline, that's kind of pulling against the pull of the rigging line, and I thought, well, if it's pulling against it, then it's going to keep it cinched. But the more I think about it, the more I think, well, if it's pulling against it, and as the rigging line's being lowered, the act of lowering might loosen just enough to kind of slacken it off.
On the half hitch, on your marl hitch, your first marl hitch.
No, to slacken it off so that the tail of the line is going to the tandem pulley, and then as you're rigging, so that's pulling one way on the running bowline, and as it's lowering, I thought it might just loosen that running bowline so it's not cinching enough. So what?
I can picture
I'm sure. I'm sure that there's definitely better ways to do it, but I felt in the moment that was a good way to use the tail for that application. But then the more I thought of it after the job, I was like, there's got to be a better knot to have used to do that. So say like a half hitch. I emailed a friend of mine to see what he thought about it, somebody who I really respect, and he said maybe a half hitch into a cow hitch and then use the tail. So if I haven't got another rope to use, so I'm having to use all one rope, because then using that tail, it's going to be cinching the cow hitch even further.
Yeah, it would only pull your half hitches, your backed up half hitches on the cow hitch tight, right?
Yeah.
That's what. So that would be better than the running bowline.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you do have the potential, because what you're describing is exactly breaking the bowline knot with the speed line's tail, right? So the tail of the Yosemite is basically breaking the bowline choke, but it would have been pulling with extreme pressure on the tail of your marl hitch, your half hitch, so that would have been acting in tension.
Yeah.
So I think the hitch on your rig piece was good, but yeah, it might have been breaking the choke of the bowline a little bit.
Yeah.
I could see how you could think, and if they were big, chunky keg pieces that are square as they are round, I'd be worried of them coming out too.
They were long. They were quite a lot longer than they were square.
Yeah.
They were heavy pieces, and yeah, it did nothing happened. Everything went smoothly. Everything worked fine.
Yeah.
And
what would be the nightmare scenario there is complete loss of tension on the rigging system, so that line could start to go slack, and stopping the speed system completely, so that everything was under tension by the Yosemite bowline tie off. That would be the way that piece would fall out. But with any amount of back pressure, which means as long as your speed line was a reasonable angle, the pressure on the back line, the actual rigging line through the block and down, would always have enough and wouldn't allow slack in the system. If you know what I mean? It just can't happen.
Yeah, I mean that's what happened like on the job.
Yeah.
What happened was there were the two lines pulling against each other, effectively, essence, and so it was kept cinched. But I just there was something about that setup, that knot, that I just felt there seems to be some chance that having the speed line, the tail of the line pulling in the opposite direction, it felt like there was a chance that it could loosen the running bowline a little bit, and so I thought there's definitely got to be a better way to tie it off here. So.
That is like being a true professional, letting that thing work at your brain right now, and thinking how to do that better is important, and that's good, and not everyone would do that, and there is better, and then there's best, and so there's good, better, best, and I always say that to people, and it's sort of an annoying coin phrase, but that's just it. We get away with lots of good. You could do it slightly better, or you could have the right gear and the right things, and next time you might do it the best practice, right? But safe. And I mean, you look at other things, like what was the target below? If it had have released, is it a game over, or is it like, man, that fell out of the rope? There's no targets below. We're just trying to save time.
Yeah.
If you damage my lawn, shame on you. If you hurt somebody, that's no room for that. So totally different. You have to know your jobs, and I'm sure your margin of safety was very good. So I mean, the best scenario would have been to have a spare line that was maybe like a 25 foot of any line, maybe a rigging line. It wasn't necessarily had to be a rigging line, but it would have been any bit of rope that I could have tied around the piece. And in that situation, I could have tied a running bowline, because it was just one piece going to the slide line pulley. So that would have worked fine. But so that would have been an ideal situation, because I was using the one rope. I think there was definitely a better knot to choose. And I'm still less kit's good though too, right? Like that's pretty smart to be able to use the single rope. And I think that your friend is right. A cow hitch with backed up is a touch safer than the bowline.
But I'm interested to hear other people's thoughts on what different setups I could have used, like what different configuration of knots, because I'm sure there are a couple more that are better. Maybe, I don't know, I don't think a clove hitch would have worked, because you've got the half hitch coming down. I don't know if a clove hitch would work in that situation, because they're not both pulling opposite. One will be pulling this way and one will be pulling, but
I like the rigging rings now, and then if you're speed lining things, you could potentially have the piece rigged through for friction on the piece, so you're creating aerial friction as it's on the slide line, as well as, rather than a block, another big X-ring. So, just taking some of the friction and aerial, we have the ground friction with our porter wrap typically, and then that you could have used just a big Deadeye rigging sling, and that's run through your speed line, creating more friction down the entire speed line, and it's just a big whip, basically just like block and tackle around the tree. So it's more knots, it's more gear, but that benefit would be the friction and the controlled piece heading down with more friction. Yeah, but again, just getting in. Those rigging rings are so useful, and the more you use them, you realize they have a lot of good applications.
Yeah, a lot of applications.
A lot.
So that was just a job I was on, and I am going to make a video about it to explain what we've just spoken about, to explain how I feel like it wasn't the best setup to do. So I mean, it should be a pretty cool video, because I got some video from a couple of different angles, and obviously sliding large pieces into disposal bin is pretty cool.
Yeah,
so
very cool.
Yeah.
Nice. I don't get to play with that a lot. I think a speed line, well executed speed line or controlled tag line, that's good stuff. And there's so many applications where it makes the job smarter and safer, right?
Yeah.
Running pieces and using gravity rather than square rigging out pieces, where possible. It might be like, well, it seems uncontrolled. No, this is what we need for safety, and so experience and watching some people that do it well. Yeah, so cool. Now, you always picture the long vertical speed lines over the house, or maybe like a long distance.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes a real vertical speed line, just 20 feet off the base of the tree, is just perfect, right?
Yeah.
So, and you even did a video with one had needed back tension, right?
Yep.
Which is brilliant, and a lot of people need to think about that kind of stuff. It's the big picture.
Yeah.
That's the difference between long, low angles and heavy pieces versus no, and I don't need back tie. This is dropping with gravity, but I need to get it over this cinder wall.
Yeah, if you're pulling much more vertical, you don't need the back tension as much. Yeah,
so
definitely.
A lot to think about, and that's the stuff that separates just tree work and arboriculture, I think.
Yeah. And that's what's cool about the internet nowadays, is there's so much access to so many different techniques that people are putting out there, and sharing different techniques that I wasn't exposed to when I first started in the industry. I mean, there were forums that people were posting videos on and stuff, but
there wasn't hard to find.
Yeah, there wasn't the type of the volume of videos being made that's being made nowadays because of social media and because of like GoPro cameras. Like GoPro cameras I think made a huge impact, because now everybody can have a GoPro camera and film their daily work. And then,
now everyone knows how cool our job is.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas, like, I don't know, when I first got a GoPro when I lived in New Zealand, and I bought it originally for snowboarding.
Yeah.
Used it like twice for snowboarding because I'm crap at snowboarding, so the videos were always terrible. And then when I got to Canada, I realized actually GoPro is wicked for taking to work on a daily basis and filming what we do at work. And that's how it started with the videos that I made.
Cell phones are less convenient when you're in a tree, for sure, but same, like we were talking, to see yourself on film if you're trying to critique yourself, or to see how a piece went. And the video is good for critiquing and seeing what's actually happening. You might feel smooth on the ascent, you might not look smooth, or you might have this weird thing where you, with your chainsaw, every time you're doing this routine, and you do that 50 to 100 times a day. So quickly analyzing a little of video can help a lot.
Yeah.
I like the videos to, set the GoPro up in the tree and then access up to it. And it's just such a great point of view to see.
I love that. And
awesome.
I did it for a while, but I haven't done any videos for a while where I've had like multiple camera angles, but that is so good. So good to watch, because it doesn't get same old same. It's like if you can cut different angles in, people can see your body positioning from different angles in the tree and stuff like that. You can really get a good feel for it. So
I would say, like you're saying about the videos are helpful. I'd say we're fortunate to have yourself in the industry and doing what you do. Like your videos have helped myself and like my colleagues. Probably a lot more people than you'd think. But I mean, those videos are super helpful, and it takes somebody to put themselves out there, be a little vulnerable, and say, right, I'm going to make this cool video about the cool work we do and do it right. And so it's well appreciated, and good for you to do them.
Yeah,
they're awesome.
Yeah, cheers.
Yeah, they're awesome.
Yeah, much appreciated. Yeah, I think it's I think the internet is such a it can be such a valuable tool.
Yeah.
And I feel, because I was saying earlier about when I got into the industry, I worked for like 2 small companies. I didn't have other people with more experience teaching me how to do things, and at the time like YouTube wasn't a thing to be to be posting videos, and like Facebook didn't exist, so people weren't sharing videos, and so I knew the basics, and I knew what my bosses told me and showed me, but I had no access to further equipment or to further my advance my techniques myself, and so I was just like, oh, this is how it's done, this is the equipment I'll use, and I kind of became stagnant almost. Like, I mean, my skill as a climber improved, but my equipment was stagnant for for 5 years or so. And now, I mean, this is another topic that we could talk about for hours, and I'm actually going to New Zealand to do a talk about using the internet, so I don't really want to talk about it too much on here, just because I'm going to New Zealand to talk about it, so it would be unfair on them. I feel.
Well, one last thing about gear, I'll just tip my hat to those people like me that play with their gear endlessly, but are more creative than me, and design and work with fabricators and come up with these new pieces of equipment that for 2 decades or decades they've been spearheading these new changes, which to me seems scary, safe, unsafe, and like, how can you just design something new for friction? Well, that's the only way it happens. And it happens through crazy testing and crazy productions, and good thing that they're doing it, and it's happening more and more. But like, it's almost overwhelming how much options there are, but the options out there, just pick one. There's some really sweet gear, and thanks for those people who like
it takes a special person to create a piece of equipment that makes it into our market, and becomes like this revolutionary piece of kit that's used by everybody and anybody.
Totally. And it's the whole like, oh, I wish I thought of that thing.
But that person who develops gear and puts it through testing or puts it into production themselves, man, they've got to be commended, because that is a lot of work. That's a lot of tinkering, a lot of design, probably years.
And people saying, no, it's not going to work. And people saying,
oh, that's life support. Or
who are you to design something new? Like, just use the way we have. No, they're bold adventurers they're inventors, and some people have made 2 and 3 pieces that are now streamlined mainline production pieces that and good for them. I like impressive. To do that. It is impressive.
I reckon I've got one more topic that I really want to talk to you about. Actually, I've got a couple more topics. So you not so long ago became a board certified master arborist.
I did, yeah.
Congratulations on that.
Thanks.
Yeah, tell me a bit about that. That's like, that's
a good
like
one.
That's to me, that's very impressive, because I definitely know that I don't have the knowledge to take that test.
Thank you for that. I bet you have a lot more knowledge than you might think than in there, and a lot of us do. The test was a long test, and I just thought of it as a feather in my cap. I have the benefit of annual training through my company, and so I do a lot of training. I do a lot of reading. So I try to hone my plant healthcare and other areas of arboriculture that's hard for a production arborist maybe to hone. Dan, we met at P&W. Fungal pathogens, of course, that's the kind of stuff that I'm focusing on now, and I know you're doing some consulting work and need to focus on that too now. As climbers, we need to know more about that kind of stuff. It speaks to tree mechanics and biomechanics. So anyways, that's kind of why I got into it. I wanted to be a better climber. I wanted to know more about the ins and outs of it. I have a science background in university, so some of it was like rehashing an old course, plant ID, plant physiology, botany, things like that, soil science. But the test is basically a very well-rounded test. You get 240 minutes, which you think about that quickly, that's 4 hours. That's 4 hours to do this test, and I took all 4 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a long test. But yeah, I mean, it's just a well-rounded written test, from gear to botany to the tree biology to plant appraisal to back to some rigging, soil science, some atmospheric conditions. Going to talk about administration, management, and clientele. It's really well-rounded. And with the up-and-coming, more sustainability and urban forestry being part of arboriculture, there's pieces of that. So I think they might break it into 20 domains, which is significant. The ISA chapter books have, I think, 13 domains. So you have 7 domains come out of nowhere that are really, really specific. And I think it's only 200 questions, but they're written in a little larger scenario-based style. So you get a big, long scenario about a tree in a backyard on this particular day in this particular event, and then there'll be 5 questions in a row, perhaps, about that. And they'll ask, well, let's talk about the soil. Okay, now let's talk about that piece. And if you did have to rig it, how would that go? So you're constantly going back to this main sort of paragraph question and making sure you understand the big scope. And so it's an interesting test. It was mentally challenging. I'm no genius, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really liked reading the arboriculture journals and your Arborist news. A little bit of older literature, like some, skim some old Shigo or something, just so you have some real basics on CODIT and some competing theories right now with CODIT. And we have so much in our brains from 10 and 12 and years of practice, right? There's a lot in there. So a lot of us have the ability to go in and write a good test. It's just, can you go in and get your passing? I think 70 was your minimum pass.
Yeah.
And
did you do a lot of like studying for it beforehand, or did you feel like you had that base knowledge that you needed to be able to take the test, or were you like, was it something that you were studying for months beforehand?
I wouldn't say months hard. Like if I said I was studying months, it would sound like it was really all I was doing and really focusing. I took an hour a week for months, so maybe 8 to 15 hours of studying over 2 months, so that it wasn't a cram session. There was no one book I had to finish and read. It was just reading everything I could for a few months to get this well-rounded knowledge. I don't work on a lot of palms, for example, so I focused on palms. And there is a lot in the ISA about palms because they impact so many other people's day-to-day.
Yeah.
Soil deficiencies and nutrient deficiencies based on pH and things like that. I don't have time to crack a textbook and get into the math of that occasionally, or frequently, I mean. So I was like, I better brush up on that. Yeah. I don't do plant appraisal on a professional level to tell you this tree's been damaged by Johnny Arborist and now it's worth, go after him for money. That's a big part in other people's lives. So there's a big part on it.
And was that a good part of the test?
Oh, yeah. Like I would say good part is in like one of those domains. A big chunk of domain is on a plant and tree appraisal and the multiple methods that there are.
And I know next to nothing about plant appraisal. Is there set guidelines by like the ISA to say this is how we do it, and so there's always like there's a right answer at the end of it, or is it because I would have thought it was subjective?
Well, it is subjective in a small way, in that recently there have been 1, 2, or 3 options of using plant and tree appraisal, and that could be, and you kind of spin it in the sense of, do we have to go after an economic value? Do we have to go after an intrinsic value or an environmental value? So there were 3 options for plant appraisal, but very recently they've just published a new edition, and it's very recent, and that will be the new, this is the standard for tree appraisal.
Yeah.
And that still will give you these 2 options, because you can't always go and say, right, this 100-year-old Doug fir, to buy that at the nursery is infinity. Yeah, so that model doesn't work, right? But if you damage my 6-centimeter caliper tulipifera, I'm going to say it's $265 plus labor, Dan. So that works. That's the cost replacement value. Otherwise, we have to go after an intrinsic value, or like a model that's based on DBH and what it does for stormwater sequestration and air quality. And Mrs. Jones loves the flowers. Like, how do you put a price on that? Well, there is an appraisal method for that.
Yeah.
And that's where we don't get very litigious here in Canada, but a lot more so in the States, and those are where your lawyers got this plant appraisal, and they're using an arborist as subject matter expert to say, right, why'd you use that appraisal method? And it is a big part of consulting arborist world, and not on your radar if you're production climbing every day, but you get into the ASCA side of things, which is our consulting arborist side, or you want to be a registered professional consulting arborist, that's right. yeah, you're going to need to know that stuff. That's your bread and butter with your other than risk assessment, right?
Yeah.
And risk assessment's in there too. Like
Yeah.
I can't describe how thorough the test is for really hitting on everything you might need to know
Yeah.
about arboriculture and the environment. It's so in tune with the world we live in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what so now you have your board, like certified master arborist. What was the motivation behind taking it, and what are the benefits to you personally of taking it, and how you can help with your knowledge, or where does it take you from here taking that exam, or is it just for personal achievement of that, knowing that that's a hard test, that's a big goal, a big milestone to reach, and that's why you took it? Or
I think that's the reason I took it, is I just want to keep learning and training, and it's one that I had my eyes set on. I don't think it'll change my day-to-day job. My municipality might be proud to have a board certified master arborist on staff. Some of my motivations were just some of my peers in the industry have it, and I always, my personal motivation is, I think, if not me, then who? Because I think I care and I try so hard at certain things, and then I say, why can't I put myself in the line and just put my name in the hat kind of thing? So I needed to see if I was capable. I want to make sure I talk a lot when I'm, doing quotes or talking with my colleagues or in front of a small group. So I really that credential makes me feel like I back myself up a bit, but really it is the feather in the hat to say, I wrote a tough test, and there's still, you're smarter and better arborists than me. There's people that all around me are better than me and maybe don't have that yet. But my job now will be to empower other people to take this test. Yeah. And because it looks good. It looks good for the industry. It's a well-written test that asks way more of you than any other test I've written. Yeah. So if there's a test to say, where's the bar at? Do you belong here? Yeah. People like yourself belong there. Yeah. Yeah. And we're not here just for a part-time job and then going to go be a welder in a few years, which not knocking that at all. But what I'm saying is I'm a career arborist. I want to be involved in this industry for my life. It might not always be on the tools, but I think now I take this credential with me going forward, and I'll build on it. Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. It's quite the achievement, because I know that you're being kind and saying that, I should take it, or I could take it, but I know fine well that I don't have the knowledge to pass that test. I wish you could write it just to see. So it would take me, it would take a lot of hours, weeks, months of research that, just thinking about where I would get that time from with everything that's going on is we've all got our own schedules, crazy. Right? I mean, I'm maybe it fit well with this year anyways, and I've had a good year of trees, out a great summer of trees and learning and climbing. But yeah, we all know where we're at, and we all know what our next step is. I mean, you have some other things on your sights and horizons, right? Mm-hmm. There's no timelines either. Yeah. Some people take this at 50, and some people take it at, I think there's some people in BC under 30 years old that have it. Like, you just write it when you're ready. Yeah. It's going to be there for you, and it feels real good. It feels real professional. I'm happy I did it. Yeah. Yeah. Do you know Logan? He was the youngest person ever to have passed the certified board master arborist, which is quite an accolade. Yeah, met him at a P&W course. Yeah. Right, I've got one more topic, and then we can wrap up, unless you've got a bunch more stuff to talk about. But I have 11 more topics. Because we've been going for quite a while now. We're having a good chinwag here. Yeah, so the last thing that I want to talk about is actually not specifically tree related, but it's an interesting one, and it's the fact that you are part of the Coquitlam search and rescue team. And I want you to kind of just talk through a little bit about that, and because obviously being an arborist, you have certain rope skills, but they probably don't translate in as much into the whole search and rescue thing, because it's more industrial rope access kind of rope systems that they use. But I just thought it'd be cool if you talk through a little bit about what you do as part of the search and rescue team, and what interesting rescues you've been on, what kind of training you get from it, and what you've learned that
you've been able to apply into your day-to-day work, and if there are any like rope skills that you actually were like, oh man, that's amazing, I didn't know that, because in arboriculture we use this set of rope skills, and there's obviously so many more out there that if you haven't been exposed to like these IRATA or SPRAT tests and courses, or know somebody who is, you probably aren't familiar with certain kind of rope systems. So.
Yeah. Well, thanks for bringing it up. It's big. I'm passionate about it. It's a volunteer position. It's a great organization, and with BC SARA, we have, I think there's over 50 teams in the province. Like there might be 100 teams in the province.
That's amazing.
It's huge. Every community needs a search and rescue team, and we're there for dementia patients, to lost wilderness, actual lost people, to I'm off track and I have my cell phone, but can you please come get me? To I don't know, flashlights, we can't get out without your help.
Yeah.
So the calls are really varied. Coquitlam as an awesome area, is in geographically large and variable terrain. Gets pretty wild pretty quick. I got into it because I wanted to give back a bit to the community. I did like the sounds of all the training. Like I like training, and yeah, it just seemed like it would fit being an arborist for a while. I thought I had some skills that would be like, oh, they're gonna love this, and not so much that, but a little bit aptitude with ropes. There's a lot to do with ropes, so just knowledge around ropes, but. The arboriculture world has been often referred to as the dark world of arboriculture. There's not a lot of set rules that the Sprat and IRATA and the fire, they think it's a loosey-goosey, like anything goes, right?
Yeah.
Search and rescue, like fire, is entrenched in tradition, and to change things takes a ton of red tape and paperwork. So,
well, I mean, for search and rescue though, you wouldn't want to change things really.
No.
And because search and rescue, like Sprat, IRATA, that kind of thing, it's all everything's like super safe. Things are done like backed up and
consistency.
But in the defense of our industry, I think there's some techniques that are used in our industry that that obviously they don't use. We use them because a tree's more up down, so you need to switch between systems. Your ascent system has to be streamlined. I actually think there are things that could be implemented in like a rope access situation, where a lot of rope access work is like just doing descents, like you're just doing drops, and you're not ascending a lot of the time. So I understand that in search and rescue you're mainly going to use rope access techniques, and there's not too much room for arborist techniques, and especially if they don't understand them, they're not going to say, oh yeah, let's use that on rescuing a person. When
that's the main thing. It's for organizations, it's about consistency, it's about competency, and it's about training. We want to have this family of knots, and this is what we'll all learn. When you come to my area, Lions Bay and mutual aid on a call, I don't want you being, oh, we do this in Coquitlam, oh wow, we do this in Lions Bay or Squamish. So it's very consistent, and it's a lot top-down based, so we won't access up unless absolutely necessary. That's almost like lead climbing and rock climbing, right? So that's exposure that search and rescue teams aren't willing to, or the BC SARA is not willing to accept. So we do top-down rescues. What immediately was clear is that I had options. If something went wrong, I have a toolkit that other people do not have.
Yeah,
I have so many options that they're like, is that even a knot? And this is called the newt. And this is what I'll be ascending on. But it makes total sense, like you said, in defense of those, that we need systems that are simple, straightforward, and understandable, and the training's really like across the board. So I take that training, and I often ask too many questions, like, couldn't we do it this way? Couldn't this work too? Wouldn't this make it better? But I have to just stop that and say, this is the way we learn it. This is the way it's consistent. And it's really good. It's just not all over the box. And that's okay. It's focused.
You have to stay in their lane kind of thing.
Totally. And that's fine, because it's a cool lane. They work with the family of figure 8 knots. So a lot of them are closer to the rock climbing world than the arboriculture world. But the alpine butterfly and many others will come, Prussics, of course, but mostly English Prussic. mechanical advantage, set up a 5-to-1, a 3-to-1, or compound 6. That's all stuff that we should be able to do as arborists, and it's bread and butter for search and rescue in the rope world, right?
Yeah, that's one thing that could really be taught and like crossover is because arborists, there's probably a lot of arborists out there that don't really have much knowledge of mechanical advantage setups, and especially like compound setups and that kind of stuff, and that's one thing that really could be taught well, whereas in industrial rope access, that's just bread and butter, as you say. They're using them all the time for different scenarios and different
a little bit
applications.
More like, I think we're touching into it now with like the SRS, like a little more single rope techniques we're building in. Okay, I'm going to do a limb walk, I'll build in my mechanical advantage here to return from my limb walk. So we're getting little pieces into 8R climbing, but it hasn't really been needed in the climbing system with the moving rope system because you've built it in. It's built in, right? So that 2-to-1, potential 3-to-1 is how we move our bodies through the tree with a moving rope system. And but we set up a basal tie, tag line and pull line the other day. That's where, for creating forces or uprighting trees that are leaning the wrong way, that's some next level forces, and I think we need to get more in tune with that for sure. Yeah. And then the SAR world is certainly not just ropes, and it's not just high angle stuff. Like we do so much just wooded terrain, which are just simple grid searches and audible searches, and then we have a lot of helicopter work because we can't get into a lot of our areas, which is nice, basically hanging off of 150 foot stable braid below helicopter. We have swift water in our backyard, we have marine in our backyard with the Fraser River. Aerial stuff goes to Army, like to federal. So federal will do Coast Guard, and aerial like air stuff, air support. So but otherwise it's ground search and rescue volunteer teams that go in and help with police and help fire and help do all the other stuff. So we do a lot of tasks, like 40 to 50 tasks a year, which is a lot. And they're really variable.
That's awesome.
Not all of them are on ropes, but that's good.
That's awesome. That must be some awesome training that you get through doing it, and the experiences that you get, and obviously the fact that you're able to help people in distress, and that's such a good thing to be a part of, really.
Consistent training is really key for them, and it's not always helicopter training, but you're always going to go in every Tuesday night. We train for 2 to 3 hours. You see the people, you see the dedication, you go through the equipment, you make sure the trucks are all ready. It's a completely, it's really a lot of pieces moving in search and rescue, from the finance side, the equipment side, the administration side, the paperwork, to BC SARA. Having 40, 50 volunteers ready to go into risky situations with the right equipment. I'm an equipment manager, they call it, or I'm in charge of the equipment for the team, and that means like trying to just keep people outfitted with the right stuff and have the right stuff for from winter turns to summer overnight here. It's that part of it. Like our team is a lot going on, and it's all volunteers, like every one of those positions. So it's really interesting, and the training it's really good. It really makes you feel like you're ready for whatever scenarios the world's gonna throw at you.
And obviously that's necessary, because you don't want to turn up to help a person and be kind of like, I'm not super comfortable with this. So obviously,
you're hurt. I don't know how to deal with that.
And that's why tree climbing competitions, the area rescue part, I absolutely love, and I think it's such an important part. Some people as onlookers might see it as a bit silly, because you're kind of pretending that somebody's injured or whatever, but you do aerial rescue over and over and over again, and it starts to become second nature, and now the thought of coming across, or any of the people on a crew that I work with, if anybody got injured, I would feel like I've got a good enough knowledge of how to approach a rescue system, that I'd be able to help out. Whereas even being a competent climber, if you haven't drilled doing an aerial rescue over and over again, even if it is just for a competition practice, or if you're lucky enough to have a company that wants you to train aerial rescue from time to time, if you don't drill these things, you could get to that situation and absolutely freak out, and just your mind could go blank. Whereas if you can almost go on autopilot and just go through the motions and know that you need to assign somebody to be going and calling help, and you need to be assigning somebody else to go and inform, the rest of your company, and try and maybe inform the company to come and send more people to give help, and then you can concentrate on the task in hand, which is, being safe, accessing the tree, taking the right equipment with you so that you don't have to waste time calling down for new equipment. And there's so many parts to an aerial rescue, and only becoming aware of that through like competitions and through, because in a competition situation you've still got pressure because you only have a certain amount of time to do it, and there's people watching you, and so all that adds pressure, which is a good thing, because if that ever happened in a real life situation, which hopefully it won't, touch wood, the pressure is so much higher, and you need to be able to keep calm and not lose your head and that kind of thing.
I couldn't agree more. And I think subject care is like, maybe I've learned a lot more about that from the search and rescue side. I've been subject in some training. You feel what it's like to be packaged or to be manhandled, and we get up there and work with a bit of a dummy or a pretend subject, right? But I think the patient care and the patient handling is important if you're going to be a good aerial rescue tech. And if you came up to get me and I was really injured,
it's not about just getting you out of the tree. It's about like making sure whatever's happened, you don't make it worse before you get them out of the tree.
Totally. Like just the nuances, right? We get into the nuances of everything as we get better. But yeah, I agree. That is an important. I like that aspect too. It's more it's like the technical side of the tree comps. That piece of it, right?
I love the rescue part of it. And
that's a lot of good points to gobble up there too.
Yeah, it's a lot of good points, and because you have to kind of narrate what you're doing as you're doing it, you have to be so comfortable with what you're doing, and each competition, the rescue is slightly different. It's a different situation, and it may be a different way of ascending, or maybe a different way of moving to the casualty, but you still have to be comfortable enough and confident enough to narrate as you're going through it to kind of score the points, but then do things in the right order. And I love that part of the competition. Hopefully if that situation ever came up, it's prepared as well enough.
It's the piece of our work climb represents how we do our work day to day, but maybe the aerial rescue is the best part. We're actually practicing for that, and hopefully never happen, but that is real training for a real life scenario that if it ever came, you better be ready. And I hope you're at the comp with me if it happens. That kind of thing. For sure. That's cool.
Well, the amount of equipment that you have, I'm sure you won't be missing any pieces.
There'll be enough. They just have to make sure they know which bag it's in and if they can find it.
Just confusing the hell out of people. All right. Anything else you want to bring up?
Well, I think maybe we should just quickly talk about, if you have time, want to talk about the ITA and just maybe here in BC, some things that we're working on and that are working. And I know that you're working through and got some eyes set on a qualification, we call them here, the trade qualifications, but just that the ITA is an important part of BC, and it's recognizing it as a trade. We work so hard, and the industry is so maybe under-recognized for the quality of work that we do. And I just think that the Industry Trade Authority, the HORDAD BC, and the courses that are, the 3 levels here, ArbTech, Climbing Arborist, and Field Arborist here in BC, are really important for our industry. And and I know that you've recently done some things to position yourself to get these qualifications, which speaks to your professionalism and maybe just a feather in your cap. I don't know if you can pay yourself more, but but I think that they're really important, and subject matter experts and panel of really dedicated people worked hard to put these courses together. And in BC, there's so little enrollment in these trades that we're in jeopardy of potentially losing them. But but we definitely need more skilled arborists. We definitely need more skilled women arborists, and without official schooling programs, how do we
train them?
Yeah.
So, quick bit of a background on this. Is a fairly recent program. What is like 4 years old? Maybe
maximum 4, yeah.
Maximum 4 years old. And in British Columbia here, they have the ITA, which is for all trades to give a certification for all trades, and a lot of trades like electrician, plumbers, they're what they call like red seal trades.
Right, yeah.
Whereas an arborist isn't classed as red seal trade, so they've developed this program, the ITA and Ed BC. Developed this program that still isn't classed as a red seal trade yet.
Yeah, red seal is an interesting designation.
Yeah.
That means that it basically, I don't think it's North America wide, but definitely in Canada, if you have a red seal in BC, you have a red seal trade in Quebec, right?
Yeah. So this isn't at the moment. It's not going to class as like a red seal trade, but it is. Well, it's a step in the right direction, and it's huge for arborist training within BC, and they're taking people from very beginner, and you go through a course, and then hopefully you get an apprenticeship with a company to help you kind of progress and train through, and learn the knowledge and the skills that you need to progress and take the next level of training.
That's right.
And like, so I'm from England, and there's quite a lot of different agricultural colleges that run arborist programs. So I suppose we're quite spoiled in that regard, and because it's been a trade that's been around for a long time. Whereas it feels like in BC, because BC they have such a large industry within forestry. It was kind of just ex-loggers that then started spurring up trees and saying that there were arborists that could work in the urban forest rather than in the forest, and so there wasn't too much legislation or rules around being an arborist. It was just one of those jobs that people would just buy a truck and a chipper and start up. But now there's an actual training program, but it's hard to get people to take the program, isn't it? They're struggling to get numbers to fill up the course, to actually be able to run the course, to fund it.
I mean, and just historically, right? Companies hire young lads and ladies to come in, and they'll teach them, right? So we'll teach you the Davy Tree, the Bartlett way, the whoever way, BC Plant Healthcare way here, whatever. The internal training is good, and it is good. I had one of those internal trainings. It's good. But to have a schooling like in UK, we'd probably just say, you didn't go to school for this, right? No, I just wanted to become an electrician, so I'm here, teach me to be an electrician. Well, that's a bit silly. So it seems professional to have colleges teaching these courses. Like Ontario has it, so get behind it. This is not just something that we just came up with. There are real good industry best practices. There's international bodies that I can say 100 years of doing this is the way to do it. So let's learn that. Let's teach our young people that off the hop, get them employed, and then put in some hours as what we call a groundsman or a climber, and then come back to school, take your climbing one. So now you've got all the actual climbing and rigging specifics. Go and put another couple thousand hours in the ropes. Now you've got your hours. Then great. And then there's the next level, and we'll call that the level 3. It's not been run in BC yet. It's called the field arborist, and that'll be your fully competent person that should be ready to challenge the board certified master arborist. They're going to be a plant healthcare tech, understand pest ID and pathogen, and be able to climb a tree and do level 3 risk assessment. That's our well-rounded arborist that we could all be training towards, rather than just saying, right, young guys, you're groundsman until your back is hurting.
And it's now, because I've started running my own small company, the thought of if I want to take on a young apprentice type person who is very new to the industry, doesn't really have the knowledge, I would be much more willing to take on somebody who was interested in, taking those courses and going through them, because then you know that they're getting the theory behind tree work and how, tree biology, soils, all that thing. They get that kind of base knowledge, whereas when you're out on site at work, as an employer or as somebody who's a mentor to teaching people how to climb, you're not going to be talking about the theory behind trees a lot of the time. You're not going to be talking about biology and stuff. I mean, you can,
unless you work with me.
Yeah.
I don't stop talking, a little bit through the day, just little pieces.
Yeah, you're an anomaly though. Yeah.
As I'm up in the tree yelling down about pathogens. No, I think it's important, and I think it's awesome for our industry to have this. And it's not needed, but it is important. I think it. Yeah. And then if I was hiring people too, I'd like that level of, self-investment. You went to school, awesome.
It shows commitment as well. Yeah, and totally. So. Yeah, I mean, you're a huge advocate for the course, and you're actually one of the testers for the second stage, which is the climbing arborist portion, which has a huge practical test portion to it as well as the written test.
Yeah, that's right.
So you're a tester for one of those, which shows that you're a huge advocate for the course. And the more I learn about the course and where the benefits lie, and the knowledge that people gain from doing the course, it's such an important thing that the course gets the minimum numbers of people through so that they can run it, because obviously there's a cost involved to run it, so they need a certain amount of people to fill the course, who are paying. But the really good part about the course is that if you're an employer and you put one of your employees through it, there's tax credits that are available, which is like an incentive to put people through the training. There's tax credits available for the individual taking the course. So there's these huge incentives, and like you say, you're investing in yourself as well. So totally. It's for anybody in BC who wants to become an arborist, it's kind of a no-brainer if you want to show that you're that you're willing and you want to learn and you want to gain the knowledge about the industry and be taught things the right way, the safe way to do things.
First time.
Yeah, exactly. Not gain all these bad habits from just going and working as a grounds person for a company that you don't know from Adam, kind of thing.
That's right. Yeah, and the courses do run yearly, so they need intake, and you have to get arborist technician to again be ready to do the climbing arborist. You can't just go into climbing arborist, right? So they kind of go 1, then you take 2, then you'll take stage 3. So you need to get the ball rolling in the province, and we've had I think 3 or 4 intakes of Arb Tech, the first level, and we're still trying to run climbing arborist for the first time, which will run this year. But when things are so new, who are the instructors? Did we know we had enough people so we don't have instructors? So if you're in the industry and you want to be an instructor, there's areas now to teach.
There's options for that.
Yeah, there's options for that.
Yeah.
So the industry is going to really benefit. But we got to get the ball rolling. And people like Dan, you got a lot of knowledge, Dan. So you don't need to go to school, and then you're not going to go to school for 4 months or 9 weeks, whatever. I think it is 16 weeks or 8 weeks. I forget. But anyways, that's not possible for you. You're running a business. But there's the challenge route too, right? So you have the knowledge. You can come in and say, I'd like to challenge this test. I'm ready. And we'll, the Horde Ed BC will administer and say, set you up for it. If you pass, you get your qualification. Other people, they need to go to school because they need to learn it. So there are options for challenging these routes and still all the same benefits you talked about.
Yeah, if you have the experience and you qualify, then you can challenge the test to gain the qualification. So I sat the first level only a couple of weeks ago, and so now I have that qualification, and now I'm applying to sit the second stage, because I want to support the ITA and what they're doing, and I want that extra accreditation to my name. And I think it's a huge part of being an arborist here in BC that we have recognized training, because otherwise it's just a cowboy trade that anybody can do if there's not proper formal training for it, and so it's good the way that they've gone, and hopefully we can we can encourage people and keep the numbers up there to keep the course running. And if we spread the message around our community of arborists, and as new people come into the industry, we can encourage them to take the test.
Yeah. I think that's what we gotta do, and we just gotta keep being advocates for it. And they try to run the courses during times when was the typical layoff time, which is now the typical storm time. So apparently tree work has no downtime anymore. But they try to run the courses during times when an employer could say, "Okay, you're laid off for the 8 weeks anyways. Go to school." But I mean, I think of people like you, Dan, and if there's a accreditation, or we call it a qualification from the ITA, but if there's a qualification in this province and it's called climbing arborist, if not you, then who? Right?
Yeah.
Right. So
that's right. If I fail, it's
not good.
Yeah, it's bad.
No, we got to know what we're being tested on.
Yeah, if I fail the climbing arborist course, the guy that runs the climbing arborist website, then that's then I'll keep that on the hush hush. Yeah.
No, I think it would be best if we know what we're being tested on, which should be industry best practices, and then we do well on the test. Just like the comps, you know what you're being scored on. You go in with better information, you do well. Yeah. But no, we both know that you're a quality arborist and positioning yourself well to get that qualification.
Fake it till you make it.
That's the other way. Yeah.
All right. Well, this has been awesome, man. Glad you could join me. Really appreciate it.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's good to get this podcast rolling again, really, because I didn't realize, but I've had quite a number of emails and posts online saying when you're going to do it again, and so it makes me feel good to know that people are actually listening, and it's not just us talking for the sake of talking, like sharing stories, sharing information. So yeah, I really appreciate you coming along and doing this for me.
Thanks for asking.
Awesome, man.
Yeah, no, I'm glad it went well.
Yeah.
Nervous.
Awesome. Right, we're going to go out for a climb now, I reckon.
Let's practice some AR. Yeah.
Nice.
Cool.